It was supposed to be WWE's grand return to a territory that was chomping at the bit for their unique brand of sports entertainment. A country with a rich and at times controversial wrestling history, Puerto Rico was the home of WWE's first pay-per-view of 2005, New Year's Revolution. It was a new concept not without its risks from both a logistical and creative standpoint, and it's fair to say that not everything came off smoothly from WWE's perspective. Far from it. From pre-show jitters to major injuries and backstage incidents, New Year's Revolution may have the appearance of a glorified B-show that was essentially saved by one really good match, but there was plenty of backstory and fallout from WWE's excursion to San Juan almost 20 years ago. As we look forward to WWE's next visit to the Island of Enchantment with this year's Backlash, let's cast our minds back to the company's initial pay-per-view foray there and all the drama that came with it. I'm Jack from Cultaholic Wrestling, and this is the true story of New Year's Revolution 2005. It may have been the first WWE pay-per-view to emanate from Puerto Rico, and Latin America in general for that fact, but WWE had history with the island that predated the inaugural New Year's Revolution. The first house show they ran in the country was on October 19, 1985, almost 2 decades before New Year's Revolution. While the card was suitably stacked for the era, featuring major stars like Ricky Steamboat, Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan, as well as a special appearance from Cyndi Lauper as the manager of Wendy Richter, the show was not a big success at the box office. Headlined by national hero Pedro Morales, who scored a 75-second victory over the Spoiler, it only attracted around 2,000 fans to San Juan's Estadio Hiram Bithorn, a baseball stadium with a capacity closer to 20,000. And oh god, I hope I've pronounced that baseball stadium correctly, apologies if not. The event taking place in an outdoor arena during a rainstorm likely didn't help things, and WWE duly abandoned the market. Not only that, but an unsavory scene allegedly unfolded that might have scared WWE off doing further business there. According to reports, a major company executive who handled international shows at the time was apparently kidnapped, had a gun pointed to his head, and was told that next time he came back, the gun would be loaded. I mean, yeah, that'll probably do it. During the inconsistent 90s, WWE established ties with a Puerto Rican promotion run by Victor Quinones, a former WWE referee who worked with Vince McMahon Sr. and the godson of Hall of Famer Gorilla Monsoon. Founded in 1999, the International Wrestling Association both provided competition for Carlos Colon's World Wrestling Council and also acted as an official WWE developmental territory. Vince McMahon not only sent prospective talents there to gain experience, but some of his biggest stars as well to help draw Quinones' houses. The Rock, Undertaker, Kane, Big Show, Kurt Angle, the Legion of Doom, and others were all loaned out to the IWA for special occasions between 1999 and 2001. In that same year, however, WWE dropped IWA as a feeder league following an incident involving Tiger Ali Singh. At IWA's November 24, 2001 show, Singh suffered a concussion during the main event, during which, incidentally, he became one of the promotion's tag team champions. Claiming that he had been forced to wrestle in the rain and then book his own flight back home to Canada after not receiving sufficient medical attention on the island, Singh was terminated by WWE 3 months later, and subsequently sued the company for $7 million over the career-ending injury. That's because he had been sent to IWA by WWE, and there were also claims that he had been racially discriminated against during his tenure on the main WWE roster. WWE's purchase of WCW and their ties with other US-based developmental territories like OVW and HWA meant that the IWA relationship was kind of on the ropes anyway. Having stayed away for several years though, WWE announced in the summer of 2004 that they will be returning to Puerto Rico on January 6, 2005 for a rare overseas pay-per-view. Booked to go down at the newly built 18,500-seat Coliseo de Puerto Rico, ticket prices ranged from $40 to $200 in a market where the price for wrestling typically hovered between $6 and $12. I mean, WWE must have been encouraged by their success earlier that year in Monterrey, Mexico, where they ran a non-televised house show with much higher ticket prices than the local promotions charged, and ended up doing great business, defying the expectations of some industry insiders. However, there were some initial nerves after New Year's Revolution's tickets went on sale because Puerto Rico, like Mexico, usually relied heavily on walk-up business and promotions didn't tend to shift a lot of those tickets in advance. Those fears, though, turned out to be unfounded, as the promise of the first ever WWE pay-per-view in the country convinced punters to open their wallets and secure their seats months beforehand. Lines began forming at 4:30 a.m. the morning the tickets went on sale, with approximately 10,000 sold on day one. According to reports at the time, it was the people who physically went to the box office that got lucky, as those attempting to snag tickets via telephone and the internet were let down by dodgy technology. In any event, those numbers laughed in the face of the skeptics who believed that the high prices, combined with the company's relatively limited television presence on the island, would result in lower demand. It was said that at the time, only about 20% of Puerto Rico had cable and therefore got to see Raw. However, in early November, SmackDown began airing on WAPA TV at 10:30 p.m. on Sundays in what was said to be an initial 2-month deal to help promote the pay-per-view. SmackDown was a natural choice since Carlito was getting a big push there following his US title winning debut. Then again, the pay-per-view would be Raw branded, meaning Carlito wouldn't be there. I don't know. You figure it out. Regardless, the blue brand did great numbers, including a 10.7 rating and a 32% share for the show that aired on November 7th. Clearly, the Puerto Rican fans were ready for WWE, and New Year's Revolution sold out many weeks in advance, destroying Puerto Rican records. All told, 5,746 fans paid $825,000, although a couple of thousand comps were also distributed. And with those numbers, just exactly what were they paying for? The big hook leading into the show was who would emerge as the World Heavyweight Champion after the title had been declared vacant on the December 6th episode of Raw. The belt was held up after a double fall occurred in Triple H's triple threat title defense against Edge and Chris Benoit the week before. In a novel finish, the Rated R superstar pinned the Rabid Wolverine at the exact moment he tapped out. But rather than book Edge versus Benoit to determine the new champ, Raw General Manager Eric Bischoff instead declared that they, Triple H, Randy Orton, Batista, and Chris Jericho would fight for the honor inside the Elimination Chamber. In an added twist, Shawn Michaels, who was at the time recovering from knee surgery, would act as the special guest referee. And on the December 27th Raw, Eazy-E set up the Beat the Clock challenge, with all 6 combatants attempting to win the match in the fastest time so that they could enter the match last, with the threat of being replaced by their opponent should they lose. Batista won the right to enter the match last after beating Rhino in 3 minutes and 2 seconds. And Top Heavy doesn't even really begin to describe things because the advertised New Year's Revolution undercard had the appearance of a glorified house show. With all of the biggest stars stuffed into the chamber, Raw's quite shallow roster was exposed. William Regal and Eugene defending their World Tag Team titles against Christian and Tyson Tomko, a women's title rematch between Lita and Trish Stratus, Maven challenging Shelton Benjamin for the IC title, and grudge matches between Muhammad Hassan and Jerry Lawler and Kane and Gene Snitsky rounded out the 7-match card. Before the opening bell even rang, there were hints that this would not be a typical WWE show when a memo was circulated to the roster informing them that, no matter what, they were not to leave their hotel area. The memo stressed that Puerto Rico could be a dangerous place and that everything they could want or need would be available at the hotel. However, whether the memo was sent because they feared for the talent and staff's safety or because they didn't want them to get into trouble by venturing downtown is unknown. Backstage visiting at the show were both the IWA figurehead Victor Quinones and World Wrestling Council's Carlos Colon and Victor Hovica. Each of them were there to visit McMahon, who told both sides that he wouldn't be taking sides in their promotional war. This translated meant we will not be sending talent to either of your promotions outside of your son, Carlos Colon. He also told the promoters that he had expected to run 2 shows per year in Puerto Rico going forward and was planning WWE's return for that August. Vince wasn't the only person Quinones had a backstage meeting with on the night. He also ran into Ric Flair, and apparently their exchange was less than pleasant. According to reports, the Nature Boy was still mad at Quinones for the treatment his son David received while wrestling for the IWA years before. Rick maintained that Quinones owed David $530. That figure was because the week before he quit the IWA in late 2003, David had taken a bad chair shot to the head and needed to go to hospital where he received 14 stitches. The promotion supposedly told David that they'd pay for his treatment, but never did. David had also complained about the general living and working conditions while stationed in Puerto Rico, with the IWA countering that he was just spoiled after growing up the rich kid's son of the dirtiest player in the game. They were also annoyed because there had been talk of Rick coming in to team with his son for the IWA's Three Kings Day show in exchange for hiring David full-time, but the deal fell apart when the former WCW US champion just up and quit. Backstage at New Year's Revolution, Quinones maintained that his promotion owed David nothing, while accusing David of trashing his hotel room, which they then had to pay for. So yeah, this confrontation was reportedly quite tense, but it didn't escalate to violence. Still, it left both men with bitter feelings afterwards, and Quinones went to WWE Head of Talent Relations John Laurinaitis, claiming that Flair had threatened to punch him. Not only that, but that if Flair did punch him, Quinones intimated that he would then have a hard time getting off the island due to his connections. Laurinaitis apologized for the incident and smoothed things over, with Quinones griping that he had been invited to the show personally by Vince McMahon and that he'd had a pleasant experience bar his run-in with the 16-time world champion. Right, all of that's out the way, so to the show itself then, I guess we've got to talk about that too. It kicked off with the World Tag Team title match and the night's first serious injury when, during the closing stretch, Eugene threw a dropkick and landed awkwardly on his knee. They hastily finished the match with the champs retaining, but it was obvious that Nick Dinsmore was in a bad way. He'd ruptured his patella tendon and would be out for several months. WWE opted to have Regal, teaming with Jonathan the Coachman of all people, drop the straps to La Resistance on a house show before the battling Brit and Tajiri snatched them back when Raw was taped from Japan about a month later. The bad luck lightning struck twice in the second contest of the evening as Lita defended her women's title against perennial rival Trish Stratus. The two had been feuding for the past couple of months and had famously fought in the first all-women's main event of Raw the month before. They were no doubt hoping to emulate this here when Lita injured herself performing a Thez press from the ring apron just a couple of minutes in. The champ gamely tried to carry on, to no avail, and Trish finished her off with the chick kick in 346. Tearing her left ACL, Lita would be on the shelf for many months. It's never a good time to get injured, but being struck down so close to WrestleMania must have been a sickener for the flame-haired daredevil. Of course, Lita's career would take a drastic turn anyway soon after when her affair with Edge was made public, but that's a story for a different time. Talk about bad luck. Apparently both Lita and Dinsmore needed wheelchairs to get through the airport on the trip home. Match number 3 wasn't really a match at all, and it's fair to say that maybe somebody should have called an audible and had Shelton Benjamin and Maven actually wrestle instead of doing whatever the hell this charade was. Apparently, due to bad house show matches between the two in the run-up to the pay-per-view, WWE opted instead to have Maven cut a long promo, do the old Larry Zbyszko stall for 6 minutes, and then lose instantly with a roll-up. Not content with losing once in lightning-quick fashion, he then challenged Benjamin again immediately afterwards, and was again pinned straight away, this time after a T-bone suplex. You're a long way gone from eliminating Taker at the Rumble, Maven. Sorry for you, man. The whole thing was just awful, and the sort of thing you'd be annoyed about getting even on a house show, let alone a show that you had, in theory, shelled out your hard-earned money for. New Year's Revolution continued to circle the drain in match number 4 as Jerry Lawler exited the commentary booth to take on the nefarious Muhammad Hassan in his televised in-ring debut. Also vacating his seat was Jim Ross, who made his way to ringside to support his colleague and friend and also keep an eye on Daivari, meaning the match played out with no soundtrack beside the crowd's occasional chants of boring. The idea going in was that the King would be able to lead the rookie in a simple 1985 style match that fans would respond to based on the heated storyline going on. What creative didn't take into account, however, was the fact that a large section of Puerto Ricans hold a general disdain for those in mainland USA, so the old love it or leave it USA rabble didn't translate well at all. To give credit to those in the arena, they did at least react to Jerry's comeback. Even with the rubbish that they'd been served up, the crowd did by and large manage to remain enthusiastic throughout. Unfortunately, the match itself was an 11-minute slog that badly exposed Hassan from the off. Lawler hit the showers afterwards and was replaced by Jonathan the Coachman on commentary. Kane and Snitsky, positioned in the semi-main event slot, did what they could, but their brawl wasn't exactly rousing stuff. The Big Red Machine scored the pin after a tombstone, during which he almost lost his grip on Snitsky in a scary moment. Thankfully, it was all okay. And now on to the main event. Oh, sorry, don't want to discount as well the Divas and Undercard guys who were engaged in a show-long thread that culminated in a chicken fight at the pool. Let's talk about that. As a barely veiled excuse to get some bikini-clad women on screen, it mainly highlighted Diva Search winner Christy Hemme, the hot new thing who was getting the big push thanks to her upcoming Playboy cover shoot. Right, now the main event. And what a main event it was, as Trips, Big Dave, Randy, Edge, and Chris's Benoit and Jericho pulled out all the stops and put on a collective show-saving performance inside the Elimination Chamber. As well as the vacant World Heavyweight title being on the line, it also helped progress the feud between Edge and guest referee Michaels, while also teasing tension between Triple H and Batista. The one criticism people leveled against the match was that the Cerebral Assassin once again left with the gold, begging the question of why was it made vacant in the first place if it was just going back to him anyway. But the action, drama, and storyline progression were all top draw, and knowing how things would shake out at WrestleMania 21, you can kind of forgive the little bit of Triple H stat padding. So that was New Year's Revolution 2005, a seemingly cursed show that started badly, got worse, and then managed to end on a high note that almost made you forget the 90 minutes of dross you sat through getting there. It took a lot of effort to even put the show on, as it was a hell of an undertaking from a practical standpoint, with WWE having to fly in and put everyone up, as well as transporting the Elimination Chamber and paying some higher than expected bills, including a monstrous catering bill. Those sports entertainers like their grilled chicken breast, or so I'm told. Getting back was also an ordeal due to delays getting through airport security, thanks to a sole entrance and several flights leaving at the same time. We've all been there. WWE's chartered flight of 170 people didn't get fully boarded until 3 AM and didn't land in Florida until 6 AM Monday morning. Good news for everyone who had to be at the arena for Raw in a few hours, eh? However, the show was an overwhelming success from a financial and PR standpoint. With fans turned away at the door, a couple of major newspapers running stories on the event, and a not too shabby 270,000 buy rate, the best for a non-Big Four pay-per-view since Backlash 9 months previously. Airing free on Sky Sports in the UK, the show attracted 250,000 viewers, not bad at all given the UK's 1 AM start time. Buoyed by the success of the show, WWE returned to San Juan for a non-TV house show on August 26th. They've been back many times since, and have run a couple of different towns as well. While Puerto Rico may no longer be the pro wrestling hotbed it once was, WWE can still get them in. And now they'll be back for Backlash 2023, a show that, this is a bit of a speculation, but I'm sure will run a lot smoother than New Year's Revolution. Just be careful with your knees, guys.